Kartik, thank you for joining me today. My good friend from LIMRA. And so why am I doing this webcast? Well, basically, the Kartik just got his PhD, and we're going to get into questions about that. And I'm thinking, wow, what an accomplishment with everything else that he's done and all his responsibilities. And I said, this is a perfect time for an interview. So with that being said, let me start out by, for those who are watching this webcast, I'm Ken Leba with Insurtech Express, and we are a central resource for life and annuity technology. And so please visit our website, insurtechexpress.com. But it's not about me today. It's about Kartik. Okay. So Kartik, let's jump right into it. Thanks again for coming. Appreciate it. So can you please introduce yourself and provide an overview of your professional journey that led you to your current role as CIO of LIMRA? So
yeah.
It's all yours. Go for it.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it. First off, thank you for having me. And if there is even one person who I can influence in order to pursue education, right? Whether it is through academia or whether it is through LOMA professional development, to be experts in this industry that we serve, I would consider that a win. So my goal here is to make sure that I let your audience know that pursuing education, continual learning, is absolutely fundamentally critical for who we are as industry professionals. So once again, it's a privilege and an honor to be here. Kartik Sakthivel, I serve as Vice President and Global CIO for LIMRA and LOMA, the world's largest and oldest nonprofit trade association for financial services. I've been in my role for about 6 years now, a little over 6 years now, and have had a pretty interesting journey through my tenure. I started off as a software developer, slinging code in the late '90s, right? C, C++,
Right.
Java. Got into team leadership, got into architecture, served a myriad of industries and some great companies from retail to telecom through to defense. And then before I started my journey with LIMRA and LOMA, I was with Liberty Mutual Insurance for about 10 years, where I had the privilege of serving in multiple functions of insurance, right? Multiple types of insurance. So I was in group benefits, partnered with the life company, group life. I was in commercial, I was in corporate, I was in PNC, I was close to our international operations. I believe it truly rounded me off in terms of my financial services insurance background and education, and consequently prepared me for adding value to my current role at LIMRA and LOMA.
Perfect. Well, all right, let's get into it. So what inspired you to pursue your PhD while holding this senior position in the industry? And how did you manage, and this is the part that blows my mind, how did you manage to balance your professional responsibilities with your academic pursuits? And I'm not even talking about what your family life is like either, but just that alone seems to be a mountain to climb. So if you could explain all of that, that would be great.
Thank you, Ken. So I'll start off by saying what inspired me to commence my PhD. So I've had a master's degree in computer science. I have an MBA, and this was the natural next step in my academic pursuits. But 2020 is when I started, Q3 of 2020, when the world was still virtual, and once we weren't commuting, we weren't traveling. I wanted to redirect the time that I used to commute or I used to travel into furthering. It was the right time, the right opportunity, and I was extremely selective in the coursework that I wanted to do. I wanted to focus on computer science. I wanted to specialize in AI, and specifically the use of AI within our industry, right? I didn't want to do a dissertation for just academic purposes. I wanted it to be intentionally actionable. So that was the start and commencement of my journey, and I think I timed it well enough so that now that the world is back open, we're returning to what is a new normal. I don't have to divert my time and resources and attention to academic pursuits as well. How I was able to pull it off. So first off, I have an exceptional leadership team, right? Our our chief operating officer, our chief executive officer, my peers on the executive team at LIMRA and LOMA, they've been incredibly supportive and they've been incredibly encouraging. And they're really, really smart people, right? I feel like I need a degree to keep up with them, but I
Right.
think that they were the catalyst. And the only way any of us as industry leaders can focus and invest in our own educational pursuits is two things. Number one, do it, right? Make time for it because it's important. It's important for you as an industry professional. It's important for you as a leader, right? I want to make sure that when I'm inspiring my teams to pursue continual education and continual learning, I'm speaking from a position of knowledge and having walked that same path before. Um, and I don't think I would have been able to pull it off without my team. There is no way, right? Without having a strong leadership team around you, without having a strong team around you, that you don't need to go to the 50 feet level on every single thing, right? You're not going to be able to carve out time and capacity to be able to pursue your own growth and development.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, well, I mean, it sounds like you have a great team, and no doubt about that. And but when how do you think this is impacting your role now? As CIO of LIMRA, now that you got your PhD, and does it in any way impact it in one way or another? Could you explain what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I think that's a great question. So look, any academic interests that I pursue as in my vocation, right, in my field, I believe it adds value to the industry for the very simple reason that my research, my dissertation, was based on the use of AI within our industry itself. So there are multiple opportunities for us as an industry to be able to extend and build on the work that I started. Right, it's step one in a process and a journey. If I can open the door for further research to happen and benefit the industry by virtue of doing it, I consider that to be a big win. Um, as far as the degree is concerned, I do think it's a testament. We are a learning and education organization. We are a research organization. It's in our bones. I do fundamentally believe that if I have a doctorate in the topic that represents us as an association, it definitely can't hurt, right? Yeah, it definitely can't hurt.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot. If and whether you want to give an example or talk about it more broadly, let's talk about the LIMRA technology initiatives. You talk about you do research and everything. So, do you believe advanced academic background that you've now have accomplished? Where do you see that impacting, or how do you see that in the initiatives that you guys are working on?
Yeah, so we run 124-ish committees and study groups, right? I personally I have the privilege of hosting a CIO consortia where CIOs, CTOs, CDAOs from across the industry and CISOs we get together and talk about timely topical things, as well as our advanced analytics study group where data practitioners from across the senior data practitioners from across the industry gather to tease out, again, timely, topical, relevant things for the industry from a thought leadership point of view. Um, if my academic pursuits and all of the things that I've learned over the past 3.5, 4 years through my journey can add value to those forums, I do consider that to be a win, right? And again, having been able to be in the middle of the industry um, to do some of the work that I've been doing over the past 3 years and be able to connect the dots between academia and the practical applications of academia, I think it adds significant value to those technology initiatives.
Okay, now what about your leadership style and your decision making as CIO? Does your academic journey has that influenced it any way or changed it in any way?
Yeah, for sure. So, when we think about crafting and executing on strategy, right? I like to tell people the basic difference between academic pursuits, and work is, you learn in academia, you learn and then you're tested, right, on what you've learned. In the workplace, you are as a leader, you are tested and you learn from what tested you, right? So there is that dichotomy that comes together quite nicely.
Sure.
I've been able to, and again, not having gone to school for about 15 years prior, right? Um, some of the coursework, some of the content that I've learned kind of sparks things in you as a leader. You go, hey, you know what? I've actually seen that theory being applied in practice, whether it's my current role, whether it's my previous responsibilities, right? And here's what I learned from academia, and here is how I can translate that into action. So I've been able to take a lot of the things that I have learned, which are timely, relevant, topical with academia, and then translate that into how we're executing either governance policies or strategy and execution. And given the fact that my work has been predicated on AI and data analytics, right? There are some of the areas that we can focus on to shore up our data strategies.
Gotcha. Well, since you mentioned about that, about AI, because you also mentioned it earlier too. Let me just pivot to looking at some key trends or developments on technology that significantly impact LIMRA's operation and your overall strategy in the coming years. And if AI is it, fine. If there's others, if you could share some of that and the trends.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we are a global industry trade association, right? We exist to serve the industry and all of our members across the 84 countries that we have customers, members, partners in, right? We have members in almost 69 countries. So some of the key technology trends that are driving the industry are some of the areas that we benefit from focusing on because we're trying to advance the industry based on the collective knowledge of the industry and by the industry. So things that the industry has been focused on. Number one is all things customer experience. You and I had a pretty healthy conversation in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago on the need to focus on CX and the industry's pursuit on providing our customers, current customers and prospective customers, the most exemplary frictionless experience and the frictionless digital experience that we can. So any tools to enable that journey, and by customers, I mean, not just policyholders, but I'm talking about the value chain, right? Agents, advisors, VJs, IMOs, and so on and so forth. So that's number one. Number two, I think the legacy systems that we all have accrued over 150, 200 years, right? A collective albatross around our neck, and I know the industry is keenly focused on trying to pay down our technical debt and chart a course to eradicate these legacy products, legacy systems that support the business, right? Number three, in my opinion, is all things innovation, right? Innovation, agility, trying to get time to market faster. And that kind of thematically plays into number four. If you were to ask me the same question 6 months ago, Ken, we'd have been here talking about data, right? And data
Right.
analytics. And that has shifted quite palpably to all things AI, AI, AI. You and I can have a pretty spirited conversation on AI today, and it's going to be dramatically different in 3 months from now, right? It's going to
Absolutely.
be irrelevant. So this is a field that is progressing, came out of nowhere, right? If you think about Chat GPT, and if you think about Chat GPT as a profound sea change across the industry, it will disrupt every single facet of the insurance value chain. And I think for our industry, it would behoove us to make sure that we're identifying the opportunities that are going to come from AI because there will be a plethora of them, as
Yep.
well as the risks coming out of AI as well.
And I use it every day, by the way, for different
For sure.
purposes.
For
Absolutely.
sure. Hey,
So
Ken, can you give me 1 second? I just have
yes.
a urgent time off call. Just give me
Oh,
one
yeah,
second.
no worries. Go ahead.
Can you pause the interview for a minute?
It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna cut and splice.
Okay,
So
just give me 1 second. Sorry.
yeah, go for it. On here. Okay, so the next question I have is about prioritization. How do you prioritize technology investments and ensure alignment with the business goals and objectives of LIMRA?
Yeah, great question. So from a LIMRA and LOMA point of view, right? The way we guide, I guide our teams from a technology perspective. Never lead with technology. Technology is just the enabler, right? I think as long as we can identify, number one, the business priorities that are going to add most value to our members and the industry, I think we're doing it correctly. Number two, let's be very very intentional and specific about what it is that we're trying to achieve from a business perspective in advance of any discussions about technology. And number three, think about technology as an enabler, right? I think the best technology professionals are the ones who are proficient and fluent in the language of the business and don't necessarily drown ourselves in an acronym soup. Technology is going to keep evolving, right? It's going to do what technology is going to do. And as long as we have sound business goals and objectives and priorities, because you can't do everything, right? To be able to focus and be able to prioritize and be ruthless about that prioritization and marshal your organizational resources to get after it and use technology as an enabler, I think you're well positioned.
Yep, no, absolutely. I agree 1,000%. So what do you see emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, cloud computing playing in shaping the future of the insurance industry? I know you touched on it, but let's just take it a little bit more broader. And how's LIMRA adapting to leverage these technologies?
Yeah, great question. So, our IT organization is pretty a great team, right? Incredible professionals. One of the things we do, right? We want to make sure that our associates are thinking outside the box continually, right? So they are voracious consumers of information. They keep abreast with all of our technology trends across the industry and at large, because at some point, things that start potentially in retail banking permeate over through PNC and then permeate over through life and annuities, right? So we're definitely keeping up with what's happening in evolution in terms of technology. And our job is to be able to advise our business partners, right? So if we have business objectives in the next 3 years to do X, Y, and Z, what technology can we bring to bear to be able to serve as enablers for those specific business objectives for X, Y, and Z, right? So my entire leadership team, we get together weekly on a leadership huddle, right? And we spend a little bit of time talking about those things. What are some of the things that we can do in terms of on the horizon that we can bring to bear to be able to facilitate and enable the business. The other thing that we intentionally focus on, and I urge all business and technology leaders to do so, especially where we are in this hybridized world, is be very meticulous and specific and intentional about ensuring your teams, business and technology teams, are carving out time to innovate, right? Carving out time to step back and think outside the box. So we try and conduct, like with most organizations, try and conduct internal hackathons, but our premise is a little bit different, right? Our hackathons are intended to be operationalized, right? We want to make sure that we're nurturing this innovative entrepreneurial spirit and mindset. But anything that we do needs to add value to our members, the industry, or add value to our internal operations, either by way of automation, by way of reducing our technical debt, or bringing new products to bear, right? It's an MVP. It's a true rudimentary MVP that germinates through our internal innovation practices.
Gotcha. Yeah. So let's talk about your team over at LIMRA, or in general, your thoughts about fostering innovation and encouraging the team to stay up to date with emerging technologies and industry best practices. So what's your process around that, or what do you have in place for that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, right, our team is actually pretty astute at being able to pursue the most contemporary technology practices that we have, and make sure that I feel it's a special responsibility and a privilege. Our industry is going through such massive technology fuel change. I think in order to keep up, not just keep up with our members and the industry, but to empathize and understand what they're going through, and then to be able to lead in certain respects, right? I think it's critical for us to be as contemporary as we can be as well. So we've made significant investments in modernization activities across our association. We have built out a pretty robust practice with our Agile Center of Excellence. We have contemporary engineering practices across the board. So the less amount of time that we invest in manual intervention and the fingers on the keyboard, right? I think the better off we are. Automation is key for us to be able to reduce human errors. We are a test-driven development, a behavior development driven shop, and we're continuing to do so. And like with most of our members and carriers across the industry, we have adopted a cloud-first mindset. Right, talked about cloud earlier. It's not just let's be honest, most organizations can't just uproot their entire data centers and migrate them into the cloud tomorrow, right? The truth is somewhere in the middle. It's a hybridized model, and that's where we're heading to as well.
Yeah,
One thing I will add very quickly, again, sorry to
sure.
interrupt you, but from an education point of view, right? Look, IT professionals, by and large, are want change, right? They expect change in terms of technology. So you always think about learning new things, whether it's the movement from XML to JSON, whether it's movement from .NET Core to something else, whether it's a movement from what have you to the latest technology tools. Um, so we've got that down, right? That's not the issue, by and large with most technology shops. I think what makes good technology professionals great is being able to understand and empathize with the business. And the way to empathize and understand with the business is to learn the business. And there's no better way to learn the business, as you know, Ken, than with LOMA education, right? LOMA education is just exemplary for us to raise our collective knowledge base on the industry. How can you innovate within the industry that you're trying to serve without understanding the parameters that govern the industry, right? So LOMA 281, LOMA 291, the ALMI journey, the FLMI designation is just an extraordinary way for good technology professionals to become better. And that's one of the things
Right.
that we guide our own teams to do as well here at the association, is pursue that education. I'm on my LOMA education journey personally as well. I just started it not too long ago,
Yeah.
but I think it just rounds you off as a professional.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Loma. And back in my Genworth days, I actually made some educational videos for Loma when I was there that people still take courses and tell me
Yeah,
about it. So
yeah,
it's a great educational medium to get caught
sure.
up on the business. But still, you mentioned, okay, so understand the business, I get it. What you guys are doing with your team and how they're on how they're staying up to date on everything, but to be ahead of the curve. Okay, so I mean, I see in the insurance industry everyone's fighting on technology, playing catch up, right? And you hear the old adage, life insurance is always slow, and and on technology, and then they're always playing catch up. So any advice? I mean, where do you see the future in the insurance industry as a whole? And do you still see it being slow and playing catch up, or is there a way to get ahead of the curve? What do you see in that?
That's a great question, and I will give our industry credit, right? Going back to about a decade, I think we have made significant investments in digitization at scale, right? So, so while yes, it is true that our industry moves slower than a digitally native organization, right, like an Airbnb or an Uber, one would be surprised at digitally native companies' rate of accruing technical debt as well, right? So I think we need to take a step back and give ourselves a little bit of credit. I had a conversation with a cross consortia group of students from Babson College down here in Massachusetts, a Worcester Polytechnic, and there are a couple of other schools as well that attend BC and BU, right? And they were looking at careers in financial services, and I said, just zooming out outside life insurance, what other industry would you be able to go in and play with things from IoT, right, to wearables, to to all of the IoT data and making something cogent out of it, and to be able to play with drones, right, to be able to play with telematics. There is no other industry that's going to afford you those opportunities, but insurance will, right? So it's a very progressive industry in terms of technology. Yes, we are straddled with technical debt. We are straddled with legacy systems. But at the end of the day, Ken, it's such a vibrant field for anybody to apply their craft in. If you like technology, if you like playing with technology,
Yep.
this is the place for you to be able to make your impact, right? And life insurance is no different. I mean, think about the future of 106 million Americans. 106 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, right? And we're the richest country in the history of this planet. That's not okay, right? That's not cool. Um, For you as a technology professional, whether you are configuring a firewall, whether you're in cybersecurity, whether you're slinging code, whether you're doing data analytics, machine learning, data science, what have you, for you to be able to contribute to something noble, something bigger than your own self, is pretty extraordinary, right? I think that the value of the industry provides, it's not just selling policies, but essentially protecting the financial security of so many uninsured, underinsured Americans, underserved communities as well. So um, I think the more we can focus on that, I think it will be a wonderful thing. I do think AI is going to be a sea change for our industry, right? At this point where we are
Really
in
agree.
2023, I do believe everybody believes they're a little bit behind than everybody else. And while that might be true, we're not alone, right? I think everybody is behind everybody else because I don't think we have, scratched the tip of the surface of the iceberg when it comes to the risk for sure, but also the opportunities that AI, and I'm talking about catch-all, right? Generative AI to large language models and everything in the middle can hold for us. I will say one thing, Ken, while I'm on the AI topic. I think as an industry, while we have invested a significant amount in all things digital, I still think that there is a huge opportunity for us to focus on the data that supports all things AI, right? We have, for the past many, many years, treated AI as a byproduct of our systems and not as a product, right? You can't really do something cogent with your machine learning models for the cause of AI with data that is less than ideal and pristine to do so. So that comes everything with data governance, a data strategy, right? Things that don't necessarily directly seem like they're adding revenue, business value, right? Because they are long tail initiatives. So my guidance to industry leaders is be intentional, be persistent about your data strategy and governance programs because they do pay off. Pay attention to the data quality, right? I cite a Gartner statistic that 40% of data in an average company is like, and that's challenging, right? What other industry, you and I had this conversation at dinner, right? What other industry would you sit down for a nice meal? The waiter comes in and says, hey, you know what? 60% of your meal is great, but 40% of it is going to give you botulism, right? Or what other industry would that be acceptable? Why do we accept and live with the fact that we're okay and comfortable with bad data? So focus on the data that is empowering your AI programs.
Well, Kartik, this has been great information, and I hope people who watch this are really taking this all in. And LIMRA and LOMA have been a gold standard in the industry, but people don't realize because it's just been so ingrained in the fabric of their life insurance professional lives how integral they are to the industry and what they're doing. And in order for us to move forward, it's absolutely necessary that LIMRA and LOMA are leading that journey. And I think it's fantastic what you've accomplished both professionally and academically. So which I think is great. So I'm going to end with one more with a personal question, if you don't mind, which is share something that you do today that's of an interest or hobby that maybe except for maybe friends and family may know, but most of us out in your colleagues in this community may not know.
Something I do as a hobby. So I think most people who know me know, right? I have a giant. I'm a giant comic book nerd, right?
Yes, and I did know that.
You
Yes,
did know that as well, right? So,
yes,
that's my stress relief, right? So
yep.
but two things are my stress relief. So I haven't missed a workout, no matter where in the world I am traveling. I haven't missed a day of a workout, at least an hour and a half, right?
That's impressive. Yeah,
Wherever I am,
yeah.
and when I'm working out, I'm either watching shows or reading comic books, right? So if I can combine both my activities, that's a good day. But I think it's so important for us as leaders to make sure that not just we, but our associates, our employees are taking some time for themselves, right? And to be able to do what floats your boat, right? Whether it's going out for a hike in the woods, whether hanging out with your dog, right? Whether it's like me, gorging myself on comic books, DC Comics primarily, um,
Right.
and sneaking in and making sure you're sneaking in workouts every single day. I think it's a good way for us to recharge ourselves, and that's how I recharge my batteries.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And I'm hoping we're gonna blast this out because everybody should watch it because they can learn so much from you, Kartik. So appreciate you taking your valuable time and sharing it with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. I hope you folks do heed my advice and check out Loma Education, because I think you will. You will see a palpable difference in not just your career, but the impact that you're making with your organizations and everybody around you.
And I am going to be putting links and QR codes when I go to edit this video, so everyone will be able to quickly get to LIMRA and LOMA so they can get access to that information and hopefully join and participate. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Ken. I much appreciate it.